4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, Shagheads and everybody out there. It is time for another episode of the Curtis Tucker podcast. I am Shags, your host, sitting here in Shaggy Duck Studio in Enid, Oklahoma. Appreciate you guys checking in. If you're listening on your favorite podcasting app, don't forget you can go over to youtube.com/@CurtisTucker. See me waving at you. If you're catching me on YouTube, don't forget that you can listen to me on almost all podcasting platforms. If you guys are driving, cutting the grass, doing all that other stuff, out on the trail, getting your steps in, all that fun stuff. But don't forget, if you go to YouTube or you listen on one of those devices, to subscribe to the podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You guys can hit me up with your comments, your questions, your thoughts at curtistucker.com or shags@shaggyduck.com. I would appreciate hearing from you guys just so I know who all is out there. Meant to get this episode recorded Thursday night, but I live in Oklahoma and it is spring and it is officially tornado season. So we had tornadoes in the area last night, and I went out to do some video footage of the lightning and the storm as it was going by Enid. Several tornadoes did touch down just west of Enid, and unfortunately, about 45 minutes away near Fairview, there was a lady and her daughter that were driving and unaware that the tornado was there, hit their van, and killed both of them. So it's crazy times in Oklahoma. I think they're more severe weather tonight, except it's all moved to the east over by Tulsa, so we are fine tonight. But anyway, it is Friday night when I'm recording this, so I thought, well, let me get this recorded so I can try to keep up with my at least one podcast episode every week. And so this is it. So appreciate you guys. Tonight, let's talk about the ultimate 70s tribute song. So as far as I know, there's like no 70s tribute song out there. And so I have written it. What I'm gonna do tonight is kind of tell you why and how I wrote it, and then we're gonna go through the lyrics. And then at the end of the podcast, you guys are going to get to hear it. Now, what you're going to hear is not the official song, but it's going to be a representation of what it could or might eventually sound like. So I think at this point, the song is going to be called "Those Were the 70s," and it is a copyrighted song. I did write the song. I've got Staten helping me on some of the music. And then part of this podcast is to let you guys know that you can create things on your own, original things, but you can use AI as a tool to help you improve on those things that you create or help you get them out there to take things to the next level. And so what you're going to hear at the end of this episode on the song is the AI version with all of my input. I just wanted AI to spit out a recorded version of the song with pretty much a full band to give you guys an idea of what the song will sound like, or also a interested artist. What I'm really looking for on this song is to have either an established artist or an up-and-coming artist to record the song and put it on one of their albums. This is going to be the ultimate song that when played live at a concert, everybody in the venue is going to sing along with, and it's just going to be one of those songs. So let's get into it. Let's go all the way back to high school when me and my buddies had an official, real garage band, and we really never played anywhere or played for anyone. We pretty much stayed in the garage, but we had fun. We all learned music. We learned our instruments. It kept us out of trouble. It gave us something to do. But other than just being a garage cover band, we actually wrote some of our own songs. And one of those songs was a song called Midnight Dreamin'. And because it was the 70s and we didn't have all the technology and things that we have today, every now and then during our practices, I would put an old cassette player in the middle of the room and record our rehearsals. It seems like all I got recorded were our cover songs, especially Carry On Wayward Son by Kansas. I still haven't run across a cassette, and I haven't gone through all of them yet, but I have not run across a cassette with a version of Midnight Dreamin' on it. So basically, band broke up even before we got out of high school. We all went off to college, then we got married, had kids, and the music sat on a piece of paper, the lyrics on a piece of paper with the notes on it for decades. It has sat there for decades. Um, it was probably meant to fade away. Our family, relatives would go through our stuff and see that piece of paper and chunk it in the trash can, and it would be lost forever. Well, because of AI, that song and all of the input and effort that we put into it is not going to be lost. So basically, what I'm giving you guys an example of what AI can be used for. So again, Midnight Dreamin' was a song that we wrote. We wrote the lyrics, we wrote the music, we played the song, we played all of the instruments, but we did not have a professional recording of the song. So fast forward to a couple of months ago, AI is advancing like super fast, super fast, and it seems like almost every month it gets better, and there's new AI platforms that come out. Well, one of them that came out was Suno, and Christopher Todd Davis, who is a musician that listens to our 70s Buzz podcast, he started using it to work on some of the songs that he had written a long time ago, and some of them that he and his buddy had written, but he just didn't have the band to play them. So that got me to thinking, that might be pretty cool to do something with Midnight Dreamin'. So I sent Staten the sheet with all the lyrics on it, and I said, basically just as simple as get on your acoustic guitar, play Midnight Dreamin' and sing it, and send me the audio file, which he did. And then I put the audio file into Suno. Again, original file, we did. We wrote the music, we wrote the lyrics. It's our song. We wrote it. But I don't have a recorded band version of the song. So we put it into Suno. Now, when you put songs into Suno, you can tell it to, use the exact lyrics. You can tell it to change the lyrics to what it wants, or you can not have any lyrics and have it make up the lyrics. Well, the songs that I'm putting in that we wrote, it's not changing any lyrics. I'm not having it change any lyrics. But then I also put the music in for Midnight Dreamin'. And then, but just because the music's in there, it can have different sounds. Like you can say, make it sound like a country song or a alternative music song or a jazz song or a blues song. So, and then you can say, make it a blues song with violins in the background, a heavy drum beat, and upright bass. I mean, you can tell Suno all these different things about the song that you want to make it start to sound like you envisioned it. Now, it may not spit out the exact sound that you want, so you just keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep tweaking it, and you keep changing it. And eventually, if you stick with it long enough, you'll get a version that's pretty close to the way you would have recorded it. So basically, what we did with Midnight Dreamin' is I put it in, and kind of fortunately, unfortunately, we came out with I had it create three versions that I fell in love with. One was the original, kind of the rock version. Then it came up with an acoustic version, which I told it, give me an acoustic version, and I told it the instruments and all that. And then I also thought, well, if we were to put Midnight Dreamin' in the movie, the Banana Seat Squad, that's going to be based on the book that I'm writing, it might be cool to have that song in the movie. So I said, give me a cinematic version of that, and I said violins, and I described it. So it actually, after, I don't know, I must have had it create 30 or 40 different versions of the song. And I kind of got it down to three versions. Like I say, the original rock, the acoustic, and the cinematic. So now what's going to happen is Staten and Todd and I are going to take those versions, play as many of the instruments as we can individually, plug that in, and come up with our final sound. I don't know, and I don't know what it is going to be yet. And then we're going to release that song and let people enjoy it and listen to it. But we are also going to, the same with my Those Were the '70s song, we would like to have that song purchased, or maybe not even purchased, but have a group or a singer sing it, and then whatever profits are made off the song, we would split, however. So we're going to be marketing that song. But so anyway, so that's been in the back of my mind. And then I'm writing my book, the Banana Seat book, which I've been writing for several years now, really slow. But as I've been writing that, I would jot down things that reminded me of the '70s. I would have a quick thought like Evel Knievel, and then I would just put that in. And so as I was going through the notes to write my book, and I wanted to make sure I was adding all of these little memories that I had into the book, because I want the book to be as realistic as possible with everything that we were doing, thinking, eating, watching, listening to in the '70s. I mean, all the little tiny details. And so, and this was like probably 2 or 3 years ago, I got to looking at some of the words and some of the little phrases. They might have been 2 or 3 word phrases. And I thought, there's some of those phrases that are kind of cool that we understand, but somebody that didn't grow up in the '70s would look at that and not understand what the heck that means. And for some reason, that made me think, well, what would be cool is to write a '70s song with these verses and these words and these phrases that we all understand, but people that didn't grow up in the '70s wouldn't understand, but they would still like the lyrics. They would think they were cool, and they would sing them, and maybe they would even look this stuff up and educate themselves about some of this stuff from the '70s. And so I kind of started putting those together in my notes for the book. And I didn't even get like verses done, but I got partial verses done. Well, because Suno came along, and now I have the ability to take my original songs and have them created, have them played by like a full band. I thought, well, let me write and finish that darn song. So for the past week, I have been working on Those Were the '70s, and I think I've ended up with 6 verses, got a bridge in there, got the chorus, and I have sent the first version. I took the first version of lyrics and put them into Suno and had it spit out some different versions. And then I found one that I was happy with. It basically kind of ended up sounding a little bit like Jason Mraz. Kind of also, I was getting a lot of Kenny Chesney vibes. It's not a rock song. It's not a song that sounds like it is from the '70s. It's a tribute to the 70s. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to have some really fun lyrics. Think of Aerosmith, well, the Beatles. Um, now I'm going to forget the song, but you know the song they both did that's got all these weird lyrics, but and you sing it, but you don't exactly know what those lyrics mean. That's what this song is going to be about. So what I'm going to do on tonight's episode is I'm going to go through the lyrics. If you grew up in the 70s, it's going to be a quick run through down through memory lane. You're going to be like, oh yeah, I know that. That's funny. That's funny. If you didn't grow up in the 70s, this will explain the lyrics and the verses, and then when you hear the song, it'll make sense to you. So hopefully, and this will be online and wherever. So, it might be 2 years from now, somebody out there is going to hear that song and they're going to be like, these lyrics make no sense. And they're going to Google it or they're going to AI search it. And it's going to say, there's a podcast episode that explains the lyrics to this song. And then hopefully they're going to come listen to this podcast episode. So what I'm telling you, it is March of 2026. If you're coming to find out the meaning of this song and it's 2028 or 2032, hello, thank you for coming to listen to this podcast episode. I hope you enjoy it. And this is the story behind the lyrics. So let's kind of jump into it. Let me make sure I don't have any other information. Nope. Okay, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to name it, but I think at this point it's going to be called Those Were the 70s. Like I said, this is a copyrighted song. And so it's going to open up with Hey, Hey, Hey. Now, that's an homage to Fat Albert. Hey, 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 gonna have a good time. But in the song, it may be, hey, 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 but that's what that hey, hey, hey it's from the Fat Albert cartoon that we used to listen to on Saturday mornings back in the 70s. So that's going to be the beginning. It's going to be, hey, 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 these were the 70s. And that's the opening, and then we get into it. And here, so verse 1, and this will kind of, basically this first verse is going to give you an idea of my thinking and what I'm talking about. So this is where it gets explained. So the first line is, we were marooned with a skipper. I'm going to do the first verse. It's 3 lines, and I'm just going to do it, and then I'll go back on those 3 lines and explain it. So we were marooned with a skipper, used a fondue dipper, heard a monkey named Davy Jones. That's the first half of the first verse. And of course, if you grew up in the 70s, you know marooned with a skipper is talking about Gilligan's Island. So they were marooned. These certain characters were marooned. The leader of the characters, or basically the skipper of the boat, his name was Skipper. And so even though Gilligan's Island was filmed and created in the 60s, it was one of the main sitcoms and reruns that we watched in the 70s. And as far as being a kid, it was top 5 sitcom. I mean, everybody watched it. And then used a fondue dipper. Fondue was big in the 70s. It was kind of a fad. Cheese fondue was probably the biggest, and then there was chocolate fondue, but people had these fondue parties. I remember even going to a fondue party as I don't know, I bet I was 13 years old. I think it was kind of a church church youth group. Somebody decided to have a party at their house, and it was a fondue party. And I think it was a cheese fondue party, and I didn't eat cheese in the 70s, so I just went and had fun and didn't eat. And then heard a monkey named Davy Jones. Now this is going to be one of those lines where if you didn't grow up in the 70s, you may not understand that there was a rock group named the Monkees and a sitcom called The Monkees. And one of the members of the band was Davy Jones, who was British, but he was the main singer of the Monkees. And so the line is, heard a monkey named Davy Jones. So that is kind of my thinking on how the song is going to go. Throw these lines in there that we understand. People that didn't grow up in the 70s are like, what are they talking about, a monkey? So the second half of the first verse is, there was a bunch named Brady, that bionic lady, a trek with Dr. Bones. So of course, there was a bunch named Brady is the Brady Bunch. I'm going to go ahead and say the Brady Bunch was the #1 kid sitcom in the 70s. We watched it religiously. It was, there's a lady who met this fella, and it was the mom and the dad, and they both had 3 kids, and there was the oldest, the middle, the youngest, and the kid. Basically, the show was about the kids getting in all kinds of funky stuff. So the Brady Bunch. The second line is that bionic lady. Well, we had the Bionic Man, Lee Majors, but then Lindsay Wagner came out with the Bionic Woman. So I just said the Bionic Lady, and the character on the show was Jamie Summers, and that ran from 76 to 78. And then the last line in verse 1 is a trek with Dr. Bones. Well, if you didn't grow up in the 70s, you may not understand what that says. So a trek is Star Trek, because that was the name of the series that we watched, again, in reruns in the 70s. And the doctor on the spaceship, the Enterprise, his nickname was Bones, but he was a doctor, so a truck with Dr. Bones. So that's where that line comes in. And then we go into the chorus, which I'm going to wait and do the chorus at the end. And then we go into verse 2, the first part. And so each verse is broken into the first half and the second half. So the first half of the second verse is, we took a stairway to heaven, thanked 7-Eleven, we hustled just for fun. So that's referencing Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, released November 8th, 1971, probably one of the most well-known top songs of the 70s. Every guitar player that went into a guitar shop played it on the guitar as he was testing it out. And then thanked 7-Eleven. 7-Elevens were huge in the 70s. Every town had 7-Elevens with ices, and one of their commercials was, oh, thank heaven for 7-Eleven. So that's thanked 7-Eleven. And then we hustled just for fun. People that didn't grow up in the 70s might think, oh, they're just running around hustling. Well, no, hustle was a dance and a song. The Hustle was a disco song written and arranged by Van McCoy and the Soul City Symphony. It went #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100, and my sister had the 45, and pretty cool song. So if you're listening to this podcast, you have no clue what the Hustle is, you click on pause, go listen to The Hustle. You'll love it. Your friends will be dancing to it. I guarantee you'll be making a TikTok out of it. Somebody bring back The Hustle. And then the second half of that verse is, the banana splits danced while tattoo romanced during seasons in the sun. First line is, the banana splits danced. Well, people are going to be like, banana splits don't dance. Well, in the 70s they did, because there was a children's show called The Banana Splits, and it was Fleagle, which was a dog, Bingo the gorilla, Drooper the lion, and Snorky the elephant, and they danced and sang, and there was different little skits and everything in the show. And then while Tattoo romance, well, Tattoo was Hervé Villechaize. He was an actor who played Tattoo on Fantasy Island, and he would say, "De plane," and then people would land, and there was usually people that were fighting, or they didn't know each other, and then by the end of the show they were in love and there would be romance. And the last line is, during Seasons in the Sun. And Seasons in the Sun is a song from 1974 by the Canadian singer Terry Jacks. Topped the charts in all kinds of countries, but it is kind of a cheesy song. That's why we're talking about it. And it did make the top 10 worst songs of the 70s, just because so many people think it's too cheesy. I like the song. Verse number 3, part 1. We ate boxes of zingers, wore t-shirts with ringers, hung angels made by Charlie. So the first line references zingers. Dolly Madison made zingers back in the day. Chocolate, vanilla, and raspberry. I ate one after school every day while watching the banana splits. Dolly Madison went out of business. Then I believe Hostess took over. I believe they still make them today, but not the Dolly Madison type. And then wore t-shirts with ringers. And that basically comes from in junior high and high school, we had to take gym class and you had to have a required outfit. And that usually was these really plain, funky gym shorts and a white t-shirt. Well, so the white t-shirts weren't too plain. They came out with ringer tees, which had like a red ring around the collar and the sleeves. And so they were called ringer tees. And they were super popular in the 70s. And then hung angels made by Charlie. Well, there was a TV show called Charlie's Angels where this detective guy put together these 3 beautiful ladies as part of his detective agency, and they were Charlie's Angels. And they were so pretty, Farrah Fawcett was one of them, that they came out with their own posters, which we hung on our wall, and they were Charlie's Angels. So that's Hung Angels by Charlie. Second part of that verse is, there was a band out of Boston, a punk named Rotten. The Beach Boys were getting gnarly. So band out of Boston, of course, was Boston. One of the famous lines in one of their hit songs was, we were just a band out of Boston. They were out of Boston, Massachusetts. Came out in 1975. The second line is a punk named Rotten. Well, punk music became popular in the 70s. I think it was basically kind of created in the 70s. One of the top punk rockers was a guy named Johnny Rotten. And so that's kind of a reference to Johnny Rotten, the British-born singer and lead vocalist of the punk rock band, the Sex Pistols. Last line is, the Beach Boys were getting gnarly. Gnarly, I needed to rhyme with Charlie. The Beach Boys sang about surfing songs and surfing. Gnarly was a popular surfing term back in the 70s. So they were the ultimate surf rock band. And then we're going to do some type of a bridge. So the bridge will change up a little bit, and the first part of the bridge is, amazed by evil's feats, sat on banana seats, everything was avocado green. And so amazed by evil's feats, and that's E-V-E-L because that's Evel Knievel, and we were amazed by his jumps. He would jump his motorcycle across really big things and huge distances, and usually in the 70s he would crash, but he would always kind of pop up and then he'd go to the hospital because he broke like 30 bones. But it was Evel Knievel in the 70s. The second line is, sat on banana seats, banana seat bikes. Had to squeeze that one in. That's why we did the bridge, because I hadn't snuck that line in yet. But banana seat bikes were all the rage in the 70s, and that's pretty much what we rode. And then everything was avocado green, pretty much. Sinks, bathtubs, ovens, refrigerators, wallpaper, shag carpet. I mean, avocado green was one of those colors that was popular in the 70s, and it kind of symbolized earth tones and getting back to nature. But then there was orange and brown and a weird blue. So that's the first part of the bridge. The second part is, there were Barbies, G.I. Joes, and bell-bottom clothes. Jarts with clackers were obscene. Of course, Barbies and G.I. Joes are, in the 70s, they were called dolls. Towards the end of the 70s and 80s, they changed it to, I can't remember, but they were pretty much called dolls in the 70s. And bell-bottom clothes. So bell-bottom is the description of the jeans that we used to wear in the 70s, bell-bottom jeans. They have made kind of a comeback here lately, so a lot of people probably understand what bell bottoms were, but they were symbolizing kind of a counterculture and the whole disco and rebellion phase of some people in the 70s. And then jarts and with clackers were obscene. Well, jarts were those yard darts that we would throw up in the air to try to get into the circle, but they were really pointy, and if they landed on your head, they possibly could kill you. Clackers were these balls on the string that you clacked, and sometimes they would bust and shatter in your eyes, or they would hit you in the arm and bruise your arm. And so obscene just basically means they were high-risk toys. And those were two of the toys that defined us as the survival of the fittest era. Then we're back to the regular verses. First part of verse 1 is, we welcomed back a cotter, knew Presley's daughter, and found old Scooby-Doo. First line, popular show was Welcome Back, Kotter. That's what that references. It was about a teacher who had an unruly group of students. They were called the Sweat Hogs. One of those Sweat Hogs was Pa, Chew, Booga, Digga, Doo. My memory. You guys know who I'm talking about. Saturday Night Fever, that dude. Okay, I'll get it in a second. Second line is, knew Presley's daughter. Had to get Elvis in there somehow, and so Lisa Marie Presley was Elvis's famous daughter, his only child, only known child, and she was big in the 70s. And then the last line is, and found old Scooby-Doo. So basically, iconic. One of my favorite Saturday morning cartoons was Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And so we found old Scooby-Doo. John Travolta. You guys didn't think I was going to get it, did you? John Travolta was one of the Sweat Hogs. The second part of that verse is, space food sticks with Tang. The orphans were a gang. Bond's compatriot was Q. First line is, space food sticks with Tang. Some people that grew up in the 70s actually never heard of space food sticks. They were a kind of a space, basically going to the moon and space stuff was big, and they were trying to promote it. So space food sticks were promoting NASA and going to the moon, just as Tang was. And so Tang was that gnarly orange flavored breakfast drink that didn't really taste very good. And then the second line is, the orphans were a gang. If you didn't see the movie The Warriors, you would have no clue what that line means. But one of basically the worst gang from the movie The Warriors was the orphans, and the Warriors basically destroyed them with one Molotov cocktail. And so if you have not seen the 1979 movie The Warriors, push pause, go watch the movie, come back, you'll be thanking me. And then the last line is, Bond's compatriot was Q. A lot of you probably know who James Bond is because they continue to make his movies. But back in the 70s, the guy that would make all of his gadgets and try to teach him how to use them, his name was Q. And that rhymes with Scooby-Doo. So that's why I use that. Okay, now we're on to verse 5. We're getting close here. We're cruising. Here we go. Meatloaf by the dashboard. Vader was a Sith Lord. Halloween was a movie. Meatloaf by the dashboard. That was a line that I thought, if you didn't grow up in the 70s, you're going to have no clue what that line means. If you grew up in the 70s, you know exactly what that line means. Well, it means Paradise by the Dashboard Light, released by Meatloaf in 1977 on his album Bat Outta Hell. It's an 8-minute rock epic. So Meatloaf was a rock star in the 70s, and Paradise by the Dashboard Light was a huge song back then. Second line, Vader was a Sith Lord. Well, is there anything bigger than Star Wars? Star Wars was the space movie of 1977, and Darth Vader was the villain of the movie. And if you didn't know, he was a Sith Lord. Look that up. You'll have to figure that out. And then Halloween was a movie. Most people consider Halloween a holiday, but actually in 1978, John Carpenter came out with a movie called Halloween. It's considered a slasher, although I don't think you ever see any blood. And you don't really ever see anybody actually get murdered, I don't think. It's just one of those, it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, push pause, go watch it. But if you ever wonder where Michael Myers came from and all those sequels, came from 1978's Halloween. Second part of verse 5 is knee-high were our tube socks. Kids played with pet rocks. Shag made everything so groovy. First line, knee-high were our tube socks. Yeah, when we were growing up. And that was part of your gym clothes in junior high and high school, was the funky gym shorts, the ringer tees, and tube socks. The tube socks were basically white socks that went almost all the way up to your knees, and then at the top of them, they would have three rings, usually yellow, red, or blue, sometimes green, but usually red, blue, and yellow. Kids played with pet rocks. It was a fad in the 70s. Came out in 1975. Over 1 million $4 smooth stones were sold as hassle-free pets. So basically, you would get this cute little box, open it up, and I think it had some little nest stuff in it, and a smooth rock that I believe it had eyes on it, and that was your pet rock. You had a pet, but you didn't have to take it out, you didn't have to feed it, you didn't have to water it. Guy made $1 bazillion off of that. And then the last line, shag made everything groovy. Shag carpet, most houses had shag carpet. The jungle room in Elvis's house has a green shag carpet, and it's known for being deep, plush, long fibers, vibrant, weird, funky, earthy colors. So, and then shag is also part of Shaggy and Shags. Okay, last verse. First part, we were raised on Watergate, told we had to clean our plate. Quint had the biggest jaws. First line, we were raised on Watergate. Biggest political scandal in the history of the United States happened in 1972. It was a Watergate hotel scandal where supposedly President Nixon sent in some dudes to break into the Democratic national headquarters and see what they were up to. They got caught. President Nixon lied. Basically, he got in trouble not so much for the break-in, it was for the lie. And he resigned from office. Second line, told we had to clean our plate. Basically, in the 70s, your parents kind of expected you to clean your plate no matter what they served, even if they served liver and Brussels sprouts. And if you didn't want to clean your plate and you didn't want to eat what you were served, your parents would say, there are starving children in Africa. You need to eat everything on your plate. And the last line, Quint had the biggest jaws. Well, it's not describing a guy with a big mouth. Quint was the captain of the boat, the Orca, that went out in 1975 to capture Jaws, who was terrorizing a town and killing people. Amityville. Amity. The second part of the last verse is, there was Saturday Night Fever, the right dream weaver, bandit broke the speeding laws. First part of that is, there was Saturday Night Fever. People weren't getting sick. They didn't have a fever on Saturday nights. That was the name of a movie. The ultimate 1977 disco movie with John Travolta. I didn't forget. See, gotcha. Keep following me. Caused a whole sensation. The Bee Gees were the hugest music group out there, singing all the songs from the Saturday Night Fever album. It was disco here, disco everywhere. It was one of the coolest things of growing up in the 70s. The second line, the right Dreamweaver. Well, Dreamweaver is a song released in 1975, and the guy that sang it was Gary Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, so that's the right Dreamweaver. And the last line is, Bandit broke the speeding laws. Of course, that's in reference to the 1977 movie Smokey and the Bandit, where Smokey was driving the Pontiac Trans Am. We're talking Burt Reynolds, trying to get Coors Light beer from one point to another in a certain amount of time without Smokey catching him. So there are the verses. The chorus that goes in between the verses of the song is, sunshine rays were never wasted, ripe melon juices never tasted as sweet as the memories of those 70s summers. Basically, that's saying that we never let sunshine go to waste. We were always outside. We were always doing something. We were just go, go, go. And even if the sun went down, we were still going till the streetlights came on. Ripe melon juices never tasted. Ate a lot of watermelon, some cantaloupe in the 70s. It was big. Even though ripe melons, even the ones you stole, tasted really sweet, but they were never as sweet as the memories growing up in the 70s of those 70s summers. All of the 70s were cool and groovy, but the summers were the ultimate because you had freedom. No school, your parents were working, you weren't tethered to a phone, your parents couldn't contact you, you were roaming, you were gone. So that's the chorus throughout the song, and then at the very end of the song, there's a different chorus, and it goes, those were the 70s, oh how we love the memories, take us back to our old friends one last time before it ends. And basically that's just saying the 70s were the greatest. We have not lost our memories of the 70s, and if we could give up everything that we have, we would, to go back just one time to be with our friends for one summer night before it ends, meaning before we're all gone or before some of our best friends are gone. So there is, these were the 70s. So I'm going to next play the song on the podcast. And again, it's a copyrighted song, so don't be stealing it. If you know of somebody that is looking for a song, it's going to be available. We're going to want somebody to record it. Listen to it. Again, and this, what you're going to hear is not the absolute final version. It's just a version that I'm able to present to you guys because of AI to give you an idea of what we're working on. But please help spread the word. Listen to it a couple times and see if you guys aren't singing along with it. It's going to be one of those songs where everybody in the audience would be singing to it. I promise you. So listen to the song. Let me know what you think. Here we go.
Hey, hey, these were the 70s. We were marooned with a skipper, used a fondue dipper, heard a monkey named Davy Jones. There was a bunch of named Brady, that bionic lady, a trek with a Dr. Bones. Sunshine rays were never wasted, ripe melon juices never tasted as sweet as the memories of those 70s summers. We took a stairway to heaven, thanks 7-Eleven. We hustled just for fun. The banana splits danced, while tattoo romanced during seasons in the sun. those 70s summers. Whoa, yes, we ate boxes of zingers, wore t-shirts with ringers, hung angels made by Charlie. There was a band out of Boston, a punk named Rotten. The Beach Boys were getting gnarly. Oh, amazed by evil's feats, sat on banana seats. Everything was avocado green. There were Barbies, G.I. Joes, and bell-bottom clothes. Jars with clackers were obscene. We welcomed back a Carter, knew Presley's daughter, and found old Scooby-Doo. Space food sticks with tang, the orphans were a gang. Bond's compatriot was Q. Oh, sunshine rays were never wasted, ripe melon juices never tasted as sweet as the memories of those 70s summers. Meatloaf by the dashboard, Vader was a Sith Lord. Halloween was a movie. Knee-high were our tube socks, kids played with pet rocks. Shag made everything so groovy. Oh, sunshine rays were never wasted, ripe melon juices never tasted as sweet as the memories of those 70s summers. We were raised on Watergate, told we had to clean our plate. Quint had the biggest jaws. There was Saturday Night Fever, the right dream weaver. Bandit broke the speeding laws. Oh, those were the 70s. Oh, how we love the memories. Take us back to our old friends one last time before it ends. Oh,
Well, what'd you think? I like the song. I think it's fun. I think it's catchy. It came out better than I thought it was going to. So let me know your thoughts. Curtis at curtistucker.com, Shags at shaggyduck.com. If you know of an artist, if you are an artist that you're listening to this and you're interested in the song, get a hold of me. But appreciate you guys listening to the Curtis Tucker Podcast. Be sure and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. And I'm trying to think of if there's anything else before I get out of here. I can't think of it, but just let me know what you think about the song. I'm going to get out of here. See ya.